Hey folks, welcome back to my channel. I'm here to do a video response to a contest sponsored by a YouTuber named Proghat'S, who has asked us to talk about music from the 1960s, which is my era. And Proghat'S goal for this contest is to, or I should say was to, get his subscriber numbers up past 400, which is he's already gone past that. So good for you, bud. Glad to hear it. And let me tell you the rules of this contest. Okay. First, Proghat wants us to show 3 favorite albums from the 1960s. Okay, so do that now. And this is one of the oldest albums in my collection from 1964. This is the Miracles' Greatest Hits from the Beginning. Okay, which has all of their big hits up until the year 1964. I love this record. You can see that it's beat up. I played it to death over the decades. It shows all the members of the group there, including Smokey's wife, Claudine, who always recorded with them during this era and later on, but after a while stopped performing with the group. So a lot of great hits on this. I'm going to put a link to one of them, which is one of my favorites. It's called Way Over There, which is a song they put out in 1960, one of their first hits. So Smokey Robinson and the Miracles. All right. Next, a few years after this, 67, 68, the Yardbirds' Greatest Hits. All right. Now, this is partly a tribute. I've always loved this music, but right now it's kind of a tribute to Jeff Beck, who passed away recently. May he rest in peace. Great artist who was with the Yardbirds during their heyday. This has all the big hits from the Yardbirds up until the late 60s. Shape of Things, Still I'm Sad, New York City Blues, For Your Love, which is probably their biggest radio hit. Over, Under, Sideways, Down, which is my #1 Yardbirds song. Side 2 has I'm a Man, Happenings 10 Years Time Ago, Heart Full of Soul, which is my second favorite Yardbirds tune. Smokestack Lighting, live version, which is really fantastic on this record. And finally, I'm Not Talking. So, the Yardbirds, right? Great music, great group. And finally, from the year 1967, this is Big Brother and the Holding Company. Now, see in the corner here, it says featuring Janis Joplin. This is a reissue put out on Columbia after the group signed with Columbia Records. And they had made this previously for a record label called Mainstream, and it didn't showcase Janis until she became a star after the Monterey Pop Festival in 1967, and that's when they signed with Columbia, I believe. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, this is just great raw music from Big Brother. A lot of bluesy type things, and Janis was not singing lead on every one of the songs. Songs like Bye Bye Baby, Call on Me, which is a great tune. Janis does a couple of blues numbers where she is the lead singer. One is called Women as Losers, which is the first song on side 2, which is absolutely incredible. And she finishes, or the group finishes, with a song called The Last Time, which she also solos on, and just screaming the blues, you know. One of the songs that people remember that did become sort of a radio hit for the group is called Down on Me, and which I believe she co-wrote the song. But anyway, so Big Brother was not just Janis Joplin, but she certainly is showcased here. And what I love about this particular record is this is when her voice was at its most powerful. She had come from a tradition of doing country blues and straight blues, you know, black blues. And she had this perfect, pristine voice. And before she got the growl, which came later when she started having to scream her guts out over all the electronic sound of Big Brother. And by the time they did Cheap Thrills in 1968, her voice was beginning to deteriorate. She was still very powerful, remained a very powerful singer throughout the rest of her life, her very short life. But yeah, this is Janis when she was just pristine and perfect. So great record. Okay, so those are my 3 favorite records from, well, 3 of my favorite records from the 1960s. There were so many others I could show you. 3 favorite songs from the 1960s. Okay, now let's go back a little way. First of all, This is a one-hit wonder group called the Jaynetts, who had a hit back in 1964 called Sally Go Round the Roses, which, if you've heard this, and of course if you're of the 60s generation, you would have heard this, I'm sure, but this is a song that transcends categories. Now these young women were terrific singers with very soul-filled voices, but the song, I guess, is classified as rhythm and blues. It's certainly not rock and roll, but it was a big hit back in 1964, and it's just not possible to categorize it. But they were unfortunately one-hit wonders, even though I have a CD by them as well. They're very good, very talented ladies. But how many people remember this? This was recorded several years later by a group called the Grace Society, featuring Grace Slick before she went to Jefferson Airplane. They had a very weird version of this very weird song. Okay, next up, okay, this is a song that from 1967, a song that I never heard back then. In fact, I never heard it till about 10 years ago when I came across it on YouTube. It's called Big Daddy's Blues by a singing duo, a guy and a girl, St. George and Tana, who put out a couple of albums in the 1960s. Big Daddy's Blues, again, it's something that is very difficult to categorize, but I heard this on YouTube and I just fell in love with it, and I had to send away for this record. And it's kind of a bluesy rhythm and blues thing, very repetitive music, very hypnotic. But man, I heard this once and I was hooked. I'll put a link below so you guys can hear this. I don't know anything about the girl singer Tana. Don't know who she was or anything like that. But the guy is John Campo, who I think he wrote. I believe he wrote this song. And anyway, he has a YouTube channel called Campocat, where he just plays acoustic music. Very talented guy. So I'll put a link to his channel below. But this is a fantastic song, right? And I just wonder, it must not have been a big hit because I never, like I said, never heard it on the radio. And finally, this is a song from 1962. Okay, now this record on the Zen label, it's a group called the Pastel Six, and they had a one hit, again, one hit wonders, a nice little dance tune called the Cinnamon Cinder, which a lot of you might remember. But on the back of this record, on the back of Cinnamon Cinder, the B-side, is one of the coolest instrumentals ever recorded. It's called Bandido, which again is kind of hard to classify. But I remember hearing this on the jukebox in the little soda shop we had in my hometown, and watching all the older kids dance to this song. It's just a cool song. Which again, if you haven't heard it, you don't know what you're missing, folks. Right? So Bandido. Let's see. Next up is the favorite artist. And then there's a bonus question, favorite LP from the year 1968. Okay, for favorite artists, there are so many I could pick. And I've always said before that my all-time favorite group is from the 60s, as Jefferson Airplane. But there were so many others that I liked as well. And I'm going to go with the Temptations, who had so many incredible hits back in the 1960s for the Motown Corporation. They were on the Gordy label, named after Berry Gordy. And another one of my favorite single records from the 60s is on this record, the title tune Cloud 9, which if you've never heard this, it was a revelation when I heard this back. It was recorded, it released in 1968 and included on this album, which came out in 69, which one of the best tunes of the 1960s, which kind of hard to, very much a socially aware tune about drug addiction and poverty and people being driven to drug addiction, all in just 2 or 3 minutes of a great song, which was one of the most innovative, original, creative things that had ever been recorded. So I highly recommend, if you haven't heard Cloud 9, I'll put a link below for that as well. And finally, this is the bonus question. One of the favorite albums from the year 1968, that's the year I turned 17, and I'm going to choose Renaissance by Vanilla Fudge, which is one of the strangest records that ever came out. I played this to death, And it's no wonder I grew up into depression because I listen to music like this. But this, I would classify this as music to make a horror film by. Many of the things here are original, but they also do the best song on the record is the last one, side two. They do a version of Donovan's "Season of the Witch," which by Donovan it's strange enough, but the way these people do it, it's just unbelievable. It will leave you literally spellbound. Okay, so how ironic I would say that because one of the songs on here is called "The Spell That Comes After," another depressing tune from Renaissance by Vanilla Fudge, but interesting music. All right, that's my entry, and thank you Proghat for sponsoring the contest. Anybody else want to join in, please do. Give the guys some support, and if you want to talk about this music or just talk about me, that's fine. Comments are welcome.